James was born on a Tuesday in October. Dorothy always said the nurses heard him cry before they saw his face. A healthy set of lungs. That's what they wrote on the chart. But Dorothy knew it was more than that. It was a hunger. A need to be first. Even then. I was 32 years old. A carpenter with calloused hands and sawdust in my hair. Dorothy was 29. A nurse who worked the night shift so she could stay home with James during the day. We lived in a small 2-bedroom house in Fort Worth. The roof leaked. The water heater groaned. But the walls were full of laughter. James grew fast. Too fast. He walked at 9 months. He read at 4. He won the school spelling bee 3 years in a row. Every teacher said the same thing, that boy is going places. Dorothy would smile and squeeze my hand under the table. He gets it from you, she'd lie. I knew the truth. He got it from her. Her discipline. Her quiet fire. Her ability to see 10 moves ahead in a game no one else knew they were playing. But something shifted when James turned 15. He came home from a friend's house with a new look on his face. Like he had seen behind a curtain. "Dad," he said, "the Wilsons have a pool. And a Porsche. And a housekeeper. Why don't we?" I didn't have an answer. So I said nothing. Dorothy said even less. But that night, I heard her crying in the bathroom. Not because we were poor. Because she saw what I couldn't. The first crack in our son's heart. James was born on a Tuesday in October. Dorothy always said the nurses heard him cry before they saw his face. A healthy set of lungs. That's what they wrote on the chart. But Dorothy knew it was more than that. It was a hunger. A need to be first. Even then. I was 32 years old. A carpenter with calloused hands and sawdust in my hair. Dorothy was 29. A nurse who worked the night shift so she could stay home with James during the day. We lived in a small 2-bedroom house in Fort Worth. The roof leaked. The water heater groaned. But the walls were full of laughter. James grew fast. Too fast. He walked at 9 months. He read at 4. He won the school spelling bee 3 years in a row. Every teacher said the same thing, that boy is going places. Dorothy would smile and squeeze my hand under the table. He gets it from you, she'd lie. I knew the truth. He got it from her. Her discipline. Her quiet fire. Her ability to see 10 moves ahead in a game no one else knew they were playing. But something shifted when James turned 15. He came home from a friend's house with a new look on his face. Like he had seen behind a curtain. "Dad," he said, "the Wilsons have a pool. And a Porsche. And a housekeeper. Why don't we?" I didn't have an answer. So I said nothing. Dorothy said even less. But that night, I heard her crying in the bathroom. Not because we were poor. Because she saw what I couldn't. The wedding was a spectacle. 500 guests. A cathedral downtown. Claire's family paid for everything. James wore a custom tuxedo. Dorothy wore a dress she bought on sale at Macy's. I wore the only suit I owned. James introduced us to his friends as my parents from Fort Worth. Not my father, the carpenter who taught me how to hammer a nail. Not my mother, the nurse who held my hand through every vaccine. Just my parents from Fort Worth. Like we were a regional affiliation. Like we were a footnote. Dorothy smiled through the whole ceremony. She danced with James once. Their eyes met. I saw her whisper something in his ear. His face tightened. Then he turned away. I asked her later what she said. I told him I loved him, she replied. And I always would. No matter what. That was Dorothy. Forgiving before the wound. forgiving even when the wound was still bleeding. Noah was born 2 years later. A boy with his grandmother's eyes and his father's chin. James and Claire bought the $4 million mansion in the richest suburb of Dallas. Marble floors. Imported fireplace. A kitchen bigger than our entire first house. They sent us a photo. Dorothy pinned it to the refrigerator, right next to Noah's birth announcement. She visited once. Just once. James was too busy. Claire was at a charity gala. The nanny let Dorothy hold Noah for 20 minutes. Then she had to leave. The baby has a schedule, the nanny said. Dorothy didn't complain. She never complained. But when she got back in my truck, she cried for an hour. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday. Again. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. Dorothy was 58. She had spent her whole life taking care of other people. Now she needed care. James flew in from Dallas. He stayed for 3 hours. He reviewed her charts. He consulted with her oncologist. Then he stood at the foot of her hospital bed and said, "Mom, you should have caught this earlier." Dorothy smiled. "You're right, sweetheart. I should have." She never blamed him. Not for his coldness. Not for his absence. Not for the way he looked at her like she was a case study instead of his mother. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw him out of the room. But Dorothy grabbed my wrist. Her grip was still strong. "He doesn't know how to love anymore," she whispered. "But we do. That's enough." James left that evening. He had surgery in the morning. He promised to call. He didn't. Dorothy lasted 8 more months. She spent them at home. In our small house. With the leaky roof and the groaning water heater. She quilted every day. That's what she did. She quilted. She made blankets for the neighbors. For the hospital. For Noah. She spent the most time on Noah's quilt. The one with the stars. I watched her stitch it, piece by piece. Her hands shook sometimes. The chemo made her tired. But she never stopped. "What are you putting in there?" I asked one afternoon. She looked up at me. Her eyes were clear. "Hope," she said. "I'm stitching hope into every seam." I didn't understand then. I understand now. She was building a fortress. Not of stone or steel. Of thread and cotton. A fortress for a boy whose father had forgotten how to love. The night before she died, she made me promise. "Give the quilt to Noah," she said. "Not to James. To Noah. Promise me." I promised. The funeral was small. Dorothy didn't want a spectacle. Just family. Just the people who actually knew her. James came. He wore a black suit that cost more than my truck. Claire wore pearls. Noah wore a tiny blazer. He was 7 then. He held my hand the whole time. James didn't cry. He didn't even look sad. He looked annoyed. Like the funeral was an interruption. Like his mother's death was an inconvenience. After the service, he pulled me aside. "Dad, about Mom's things. We should go through them. Some of it might be valuable." I stared at him. "Valuable?" "You know. Antiques. Jewelry." She had some old stuff. I walked away. I didn't trust myself to speak. Noah ran after me. "Grandpa? Can I have Grandma's quilt? The one with the stars?" I knelt down. I looked into those eyes. Dorothy's eyes. "Yes, Noah. It's yours. I'll bring it to your birthday party next month." That party never happened. James called me the week before. "Dad, We're having a dinner party. Some important people. You can come. Bring the quilt. Noah can open it there. He said it like he was doing me a favor. Like I was being invited to my own grandson's birthday as a courtesy. But I went. I put on my best flannel shirt. The blue plaid one. The one Dorothy ironed. I held the quilt in my hands. It was heavy. Not just with fabric. With $32 million of hope. With 35 years of silent sacrifice. With a love so deep that it outsmarted death itself. I walked into that marble mansion. I saw the 60 guests in their tailored suits. I saw James smile his cold smile. And I had no idea that in 10 minutes, he would try to burn it all down. The room fell silent when I walked in. Not the kind of silence that welcomes. The kind that judges. 60 pairs of expensive eyes scanned my flannel shirt. My work boots. My calloused hands holding a patchwork quilt. James saw me from across the room. His smile froze. Then widened. A predator's smile. Dad. You made it. His voice boomed across the marble floor. Everyone turned. I was now the entertainment. Everyone, this is my father. The carpenter. He said carpenter like it was a disease. A few people laughed. Polite laughter. The kind that cuts. I walked toward James. Noah was standing beside him, wearing a tiny suit, looking up at me with those Dorothy eyes. Happy birthday, buddy, I said. Grandma made this for you. I held out the quilt. Noah reached for it. His fingers touched the fabric. The same fabric Dorothy had touched days before she died. The same stitches she had made while crying in the night. And then James moved. Fast. Like a snake. He snatched the quilt from Noah's hands. The boy gasped. The guests froze. James held the quilt up like a dead animal. This, he said. This old thing? His voice was loud. Performative. He was putting on a show. Dad, you shouldn't have. Really? We have no room for this. He looked at the quilt with disgust. Like it was garbage. Like Dorothy's hands had never touched it. Like her love meant nothing. James, I said. My voice was calm. Too calm. That's Noah's. Give it back. He laughed. A short, sharp laugh. Relax, Dad. I'm just protecting my son from allergens. Dust. Old fabric. You never know. He turned. He walked toward the fireplace. 3 steps. 4. His guests watched. Some of them smiled. They thought it was a joke. A rich man's joke. Burn your father's gift. Hilarious. But Noah wasn't laughing. Noah screamed. Not a child's whine. A primal scream. The kind that comes from the deepest part of the gut. Daddy, no. That's Grandma's. James didn't stop. He opened the glass screen of the fireplace. The flames inside were huge. A gas fireplace. Instant. Roaring. He held the quilt over the fire. For 1 second, one terrible second, he looked at me. His eyes were empty. No guilt. No hesitation. Just cold, surgical precision. Then he dropped it in. The fabric caught instantly. The flames devoured the stars. The patches. The stitches. $32 million. 35 years of sacrifice. A lifetime of love. All burning. The guests gasped. Some of them actually gasped. A woman in a red dress covered her mouth. A man in a gray suit stepped backward. But no one stopped him. No one said a word. James turned to face the room. He dusted his hands together. "Problem solved," he said. And he smiled. That's when I moved. Not fast. Not slow. Just inevitable. I walked past the guests. Past the champagne flutes. Past the marble columns. I walked straight to the fireplace. I could feel the heat on my face. I could smell the burning cotton. And I reached in. My bare hand. Into the flames. I grabbed the quilt. The fire bit my skin. The pain was instant. White hot. Unbelievable. But I didn't let go. I pulled the burning fabric out of the fire. I dragged it onto the cold marble floor. The edges were black. The center was still glowing. I stomped on it with my work boot. I put out the flames. My hand was screaming. The blisters were already forming. Second-degree burns. Maybe worse. I didn't care. I looked up at James. His smile was gone. His face was pale. The guests were frozen. Noah was crying. And I said nothing. I just picked up the burned quilt. I held it to my chest. And I walked out of that mansion. No one stopped me. No one said goodbye. The last thing I heard was James's voice. He's always been dramatic. I drove to the nearest urgent care with one hand. The other hand was wrapped in the unburned part of Dorothy's quilt. The irony wasn't lost on me. She made it to comfort Noah. Now it was comforting me. The doctor at urgent care was a young woman. She looked at my hand and asked what happened. "Kitchen accident," I said. She didn't believe me. But she didn't ask again. She cleaned the burns. She applied ointment. She wrapped my hand in thick bandages. "You'll need to see a specialist," she said. "These are deep." I thanked her. I paid with a credit card. Then I sat in my truck in the parking lot and cried. Not for my hand. For Dorothy. For Noah. For the son I had lost years ago but only now fully buried. Dorothy always said James would come back. She said love was patient. Love was kind. Love never failed. But she was wrong. Love didn't fail. James did. He chose pride over family. He chose status over connection. He chose fire over forgiveness. And now he had burned the last bridge. I went home. I laid the quilt on the kitchen table. The same table where Dorothy had spread out her fabric for 35 years. The same table where she had taught Noah how to thread a needle. The quilt was ruined. Charred edges. Melted patches. The star in the center was black. But something made me keep it. Something made me call Maggie the next morning. "Maggie," I said into the phone. "It's Walter. Dorothy's quilt. James burned it." There was a long silence. Then Maggie said, "I'll be at the shop in an hour." "Bring it." I brought it. And that's when everything changed. Maggie Chen was 72 years old. She had been quilting since she was 7. Her mother taught her in Taiwan. Her grandmother taught her mother. 3 generations of women who knew that thread could hold more than fabric. It could hold secrets. Maggie spread Dorothy's burned quilt on her work table. The shop was quiet. Just the two of us and the afternoon sun. She ran her fingers over the charred edges. Her face was unreadable. Then she stopped. Her fingers hovered over the center star. The one that was almost destroyed. "Walter," she said. Her voice was different. Sharper. "Help me move this under the lamp." I did. She pulled out a magnifying glass. A jeweler's loupe. She pressed it to her eye and leaned close to the fabric. I watched her face change. Confusion. Then curiosity. Then something else. Something I had never seen on Maggie's face before. Fear. What is it? I asked. She didn't answer. She grabbed a seam ripper. Her hands were steady. Years of practice. She inserted the tiny blade into the stitching along the star's edge. Not the outer edge. The inner edge. The seam no one would think to open. She pulled. The thread gave way. A small pocket appeared. Not empty. There was something inside. Plastic. Thick. Vacuum sealed. Maggie pulled it out with trembling fingers. She held it up to the light. Documents. Pages and pages of documents. Legal documents. Walter, she whispered. Dorothy didn't just make a quilt. She made a safe. I stared at the plastic package. My mind was blank. Open it, I said. Maggie cut the plastic with her scissors. She laid the papers on the table. Land deeds. Trust agreements. Certificates of ownership. All in Noah's name. All dated. All notarized. All signed by Dorothy. I picked up the first page. 212 acres. Riverfront land. Southeast of Austin. I didn't understand. Dorothy was a nurse. I was a carpenter. We had a small house. An old truck. Savings accounts that never crossed 5 figures. How? Maggie was already on her phone. Typing. Searching. Her face was pale. Walter, do you know what's happening in Austin right now? I shook my head. Tech companies. Silicon Valley is moving there. Apple. Google. Tesla. Land prices have exploded. She turned her phone toward me. A real estate website. Listings. Numbers. My eyes couldn't process them at first. $92,000 per acre. I did the math in my head. 352 acres. Times 92,000. 32 million. 384,000. My hands started shaking. The bandages creaked. This can't be right, I said. Maggie shook her head. It's right. Dorothy bought this land over 35 years. Piece by piece. I remember her talking about it. She said she was investing in Noah's future. I thought she meant a few $1,000s. Maybe a college fund. She looked at me. Her eyes were wet. Walter, your wife was the smartest person I ever knew. She didn't just love that boy. She protected him. From his own father. I sat down. The chair creaked under me. My burned hand throbbed. But I didn't feel it. I felt Dorothy. I felt her in the room. In the fabric. In the stitches. She had known. All along. She had known that James would fail. That James would choose pride over love. That James would one day try to take everything from his own son. So she built a wall. A wall made of land and law and love. And she hid the key in a quilt. Not a bank vault. Not a safety deposit box. A quilt. Because she knew James would never respect something made by hand. She knew he would see it as garbage. As dust. As something to burn. She was right. He did burn it. But not before I pulled it out of the fire. Not before the secret survived. Maggie kept searching through the documents. There was more. A letter. Handwritten. On cream-colored paper. Dorothy's stationery. The one she used for thank you notes and birthday cards. This one was different. The envelope said for Noah in her elegant script. Maggie handed it to me. You should read it first, she said. I opened the envelope. The paper smelled like her. Lavender. She always kept a sachet in her desk. My eyes found the first line. My dear Noah. I stopped. I couldn't breathe. Maggie put her hand on my shoulder. Take your time, she said. I read on. This land belongs to you. Not your father. Not your mother. Only you. I bought it piece by piece over 35 long years. Every night shift. Every overtime hour. Every penny I saved by packing my lunch and mending my clothes. I kept this secret because I wanted you to grow up in peace. I wiped my eyes. The words were blurry. I watched your father change. He became someone I didn't recognize. Someone who cared more about what people thought than who people were. I prayed for him. I still pray for him. But I cannot trust him with you. So I am trusting you with yourself. Then the sentence that changed everything. If Grandpa treasures this quilt when he gives it to you, it means he still remembers what I taught him about love. But if he throws it away, it means he values his pride over our family. And you will need this land to build a life that he cannot control or destroy. I lowered the letter. My hands were shaking. Dorothy had known. She had known that James would reject the quilt. She had known that he would humiliate me. She had known that he would try to burn her love. And she had prepared for it. 35 years of preparation. All for this moment. Maggie was crying now. Quiet tears running down her weathered cheeks. She never told me, she said. We were best friends for 40 years. We quilted together every Thursday. And she never told me. I put my hand on hers. She couldn't, I said. James would have found out. He has contacts everywhere. Lawyers. Accountants. Bankers. If even one person knew, he would have found a way to take it. Maggie nodded. She understood. Dorothy had played a long game. A silent game. A game that required absolute secrecy. Even from her best friend. What are you going to do now? Maggie asked. I looked at the burned quilt. At the documents. At the letter. I'm going to protect Noah, I said. Just like Dorothy wanted. But I knew it wouldn't be easy. James was powerful. Rich. Connected. He had lawyers on retainer. He had judges who played golf with his father-in-law. He had a reputation that made people afraid to cross him. I was a retired carpenter with a burned hand and a $32 million secret. David against Goliath. But David had a sling. And Dorothy had given me the stone. I called a lawyer the next morning. Not just any lawyer. The best lawyer in Texas. Her name was Rebecca Torres. She had never lost a custody case. She had never lost a trust case. She had never lost anything. People said she was ruthless. Cold. Calculating. I didn't care. I needed a warrior. Rebecca agreed to meet me at her office downtown. Come alone, she said over the phone. And bring everything. Rebecca Torres was not what I expected. She was small. Maybe 5 feet tall. She wore a gray pantsuit and reading glasses on a chain. Her office was in the oldest building in Dallas. Not fancy. Not modern. Just solid. Like her. I laid out the documents on her desk. The land deeds. The trust agreements. The letter. She read everything in silence. Page by page. Her face never changed. When she finished, she took off her glasses and looked at me. Your wife was a genius, she said. This trust is ironclad. Irrevocable. James cannot touch it. Claire cannot touch it. No creditor, no lawsuit, no judge can touch it. It belongs solely to Noah. And he cannot access it until he is 25. I nodded. That's what Dorothy wanted. Rebecca leaned back in her chair. But James doesn't know that, does he? I shook my head. He knows there's a trust. He doesn't know the details. He thinks he can control it. Rebecca smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator who had just found prey. Then we have leverage, she said. But we need to move fast. James is desperate. Desperate men do desperate things. If he finds out he can't touch the trust, he might try to take Noah anyway. Flee the country. Hide him somewhere. I told her about the text message. The one Carlos Vega had found. The one about the plane tickets. Rebecca's smile disappeared. You have evidence? She asked. Carlos is getting it, I said. Wiretaps. Bank records. Everything. Rebecca stood up. Then we don't wait. We file for emergency custody tomorrow. And we bring the hammer down. Underscore 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 underscore. Carlos Vega was a ghost. 63 years old. Retired Texas Ranger. Now a private investigator. He had seen everything. Cartel violence. Corruption. Murder. Nothing surprised him anymore. Until he read Dorothy's letter. This woman, he said, shaking his head. She outsmarted everyone. From the grave. Carlos worked fast. 48 hours. That's all he needed. He found the secret bank accounts in the Bahamas. The ones James thought no one knew about. He found the mistress. 29. Blonde. Works for a pharmaceutical company. He found the plane tickets. 3 one-way to Grand Cayman. Departure date, next Tuesday. He found the text messages. The encrypted ones. James's mistress had kept them all. Women always keep the evidence, Carlos said. They know. He brought me a thick folder. Pages and pages of proof. This is enough to put him away for years, Carlos said. Elder abuse. Fraud. Conspiracy. Kidnapping planning. I flipped through the pages. My hands were steady now. The burns were healing. But the anger was still there. A cold anger. The kind that doesn't shout. The kind that waits. What about Claire? I asked. Carlos shrugged. She's either stupid or complicit. Maybe both. She knew about the flights. She knew about the mistress. She didn't do anything to stop it. I thought about Noah. About his tiny face. About his Dorothy eyes. Living in that mansion with those two people. No wonder he always looked sad. No wonder he clung to me every time I visited. He knew. On some level, he knew his parents were hollow. Dorothy knew it too. That's why she built the fortress. The phone call came on a Tuesday night. James. His voice was warm. Fake warm. Like plastic wrap. Dad, I've been thinking. I said nothing. About your health. You're not getting any younger. Those burns on your hand, that was a cry for help. Don't you think? I still said nothing. He kept talking. Claire and I have been researching some facilities. Really nice places. Professional care. You'd be comfortable. Safe. We could visit on holidays. There it was. The threat, disguised as concern. He was going to lock me away. Put me in a nursing home. Take my rights. Take Noah. Take the trust. You're a good actor, James, I said finally. But I know about the plane tickets. Silence. Long silence. Then, I don't know what you're talking about. Grand Cayman. 3 one-way tickets. Your mistress's name is on the reservation. More silence. I could hear him breathing. Fast. Shallow. You're senile, Dad. You're imagining things. Am I? Then why is your passport on the kitchen counter right now? Another pause. Then his voice changed. The warmth was gone. Replaced by ice. Listen to me, old man. If you try to take Noah, I will destroy you. I have lawyers. I have money. I have friends. You have nothing. A burned quilt and a rented room. I smiled. He couldn't see it. But I smiled. You're wrong, James. I have a letter. Your mother's letter. The one she hid in the quilt you tried to burn. He didn't respond. She saw you, James. She saw what you were becoming. And she built a wall you will never climb. I hung up. My hand was shaking. But not from fear. From release. The truth was finally out. James accelerated his plans. Carlos told me the next morning. He changed the flights. He's leaving tomorrow, not next Tuesday. He's taking Noah. Claire is staying behind. She's going to claim she had no idea. Play the victim. We were sitting in Carlos's truck outside the mansion. Dawn. The sky was gray. The mansion looked like a tomb. We need to move now, Carlos said. Rebecca filed the emergency custody petition this morning. The judge is Patricia Okonkwo. She's tough. Fair. She doesn't like rich people who think they're above the law. I looked at the mansion. At the windows. Somewhere inside, Noah was sleeping. Probably alone. Probably scared. What do we do? I asked. We wait, Carlos said. The hearing is at 10. We have 3 hours. If James tries to leave before then, we call the police. They'll pick him up at the airport. We waited. The sun rose. The mansion came to life. Lights turned on. Cars arrived. Caterers. Nannies. Lawyers. James was putting on a show. Business as usual. But we knew the truth. At 9:30, a black SUV pulled into the driveway. James got out. He was wearing a suit. Carrying a briefcase. He looked calm. Confident. In control. He didn't see us. He didn't know we were watching. At 10 o'clock, we walked into the courthouse. The building was old. Wood panels. Fluorescent lights. The smell of coffee and fear. Rebecca was waiting at the entrance. She was holding a stack of papers 3 inches thick. Ready? She asked. I nodded. Let's end this. The courtroom was small. Intimate. No jury. Just the judge, the lawyers, and the families. James sat at the defense table. His lawyer was a man named Harrison Cole. Silver hair. Expensive watch. The kind of lawyer who charged by the minute and smiled while he did it. They had brought Claire. She was crying. Fake crying. The kind of crying that stops when no one is looking. Noah wasn't there. Too traumatic, James's lawyer said. I sat at the petitioner's table with Rebecca. My hands were on the table. The bandages were visible. Rebecca had insisted I leave them on. Visual evidence, she said. Judge Okonkwo entered. Everyone stood. She was a black woman in her 60s. Gray hair. Sharp eyes. She didn't smile. She sat down and looked at both sides. Mr. Cole, she said. You're asking me to dismiss this petition and grant your client full guardianship of his son. Is that correct? Cole stood up. Yes, Your Honor. My client, Dr. James Worthington, is a respected surgeon and a loving father. His own father, Mr. Walter Worthington, has demonstrated unstable behavior. He recently suffered second-degree burns on his hand. Self-inflicted. We believe he poses a danger to himself and to the child. The judge turned to me. Mr. Worthington. What do you have to say? I looked at James. He was smirking. He thought he had one. I looked at the judge. Your Honor, I said. I have evidence that Dr. Worthington attempted to destroy a family heirloom worth $32 million. I have evidence that he secretly booked one-way tickets to Grand Cayman to kidnap his own son. And I have a letter. Written by my late wife. Hidden inside that same heirloom. Explaining everything. James's smirk disappeared. Rebecca stood up. She moved to the center of the courtroom. She was small. But her voice filled every corner. Your Honor, we have documentation from 3 different financial institutions showing that Dr. Worthington has been secretly moving funds to offshore accounts for the past 18 months. We have a sworn affidavit from a private investigator detailing Dr. Worthington's plan to abandon his wife and flee the country with his son. We have text messages between Dr. Worthington and his mistress discussing the child's trust fund. And we have a handwritten letter from the child's late grandmother, explaining that she created the trust specifically to protect the child from his father. Judge Okonkwo's eyes narrowed. Let me see the letter. Rebecca handed it to her. The judge read it. Slowly. Carefully. Her face didn't change. But her hands tightened around the paper. When she finished, she looked up at James. Dr. Worthington, she said. Do you have anything to say? James stood up. His face was red. His composure was cracking. This is ridiculous, he said. My father is a bitter old man. My mother was confused at the end of her life. This letter, it's not evidence. It's the rambling of a dying woman. The room went quiet. I felt my blood turn cold. He called Dorothy a rambling dying woman. His own mother. The woman who gave him everything. Who sacrificed for him. Who loved him until her last breath. And he called her rambling. Judge Okonkwo didn't respond immediately. She just stared at him. Then she said, Dr. Worthington. Sit down. He sat. The judge turned to me. Mr. Worthington. Do you wish to address the court? I stood up. My voice was calm. Your Honor, I don't want to destroy my son. I want to save my grandson. Noah is 8 years old. He lost his grandmother. He's losing his father. He needs someone who will love him unconditionally. That's all I have to offer. I sat down. The courtroom was silent. Judge Okonkwo didn't deliberate. She didn't take a break. She leaned forward and spoke. I have been on this bench for 23 years. I have seen every kind of family tragedy. But this... She held up Dorothy's letter. This is extraordinary. A dying grandmother, using her final months to protect a child from his own father. That is not confusion. That is love. Clear-eyed, ferocious, unbreakable love. She turned to James. Dr. Worthington, you are a skilled surgeon. You save lives. But in your own home, you have been destroying one. Your son. Your father. Your wife. And the memory of your mother. James opened his mouth. The judge raised her hand. Do not speak. I am not finished. She continued. You attempted to destroy a quilt that your dying mother made by hand. You attempted to destroy evidence of a trust she created to protect her grandson. You attempted to flee the country with that child to gain control of that trust. And when your father confronted you, you threatened to lock him in a psychiatric facility. Her voice rose. That is not a father. That is a predator. She looked at James's lawyer. Mr. Cole, your client's petition is denied. With prejudice. It may never be refiled. Cole's face went pale. Furthermore, the judge continued, I am immediately granting Mr. Walter Worthington's petition for emergency permanent custody of Noah Worthington. James stood up. You can't do that, he shouted. Judge Okonkwo slammed her gavel. I can. And I am. The sound echoed through the room. Bailiff, take Dr. Worthington's passport. The bailiff walked over to James. James reached into his jacket. His hand was shaking. He pulled out his passport. The bailiff took it. Furthermore, the judge said, I am referring this case to the district attorney's office for criminal prosecution. Dr. Worthington will face charges of elder abuse, attempted kidnapping, fraud, and perjury. He is not to leave the state of Texas. He is not to contact the child. He is not to contact Mr. Worthington. Any violation will result in immediate arrest and no bail. James's lawyer was on his feet. Your Honor, this is excessive. My client has rights. His rights ended when he tried to burn his mother's love and kidnap his own son, the judge interrupted. Court is adjourned. She banged the gavel again. Then she stood up and walked out. The room erupted. James was screaming at his lawyer. Claire was sobbing, real sobs now. Not for Noah. For herself. For the mansion. For the money. I sat still. My hands were on the table. The bandages were white against the dark wood. Rebecca touched my arm. You did it, Walter. I shook my head. Dorothy did it. I just held on. Outside the courtroom, the sun was bright. Texas heat. The smell of concrete and exhaust. Carlos was waiting by the door. They're bringing Noah now, he said. Social worker is on the way. I leaned against the wall. My legs were weak. The adrenaline was fading. The pain in my hand was back. But I didn't care. In 10 minutes, I would see my grandson. In 10 minutes, I would hold him. And I would never let him go. The social worker arrived in a gray minivan. Her name was Mrs. Patterson. She was kind. Soft voice. Gentle eyes. She opened the back door of the van, and Noah climbed out. He was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. His backpack was too big for his shoulders. He was holding a stuffed dinosaur. The same one he had carried since he was 3. He looked around. Confused. Scared. Then he saw me. Grandpa? His voice was small. I knelt down. The pain in my knees was nothing. Hey, buddy. He ran to me. He wrapped his arms around my neck. He was crying. Shaking. Where's Daddy? Where's Mommy? I held him tight. They're not coming, Noah. It's just you and me now. He pulled back. His eyes were wet. Is Grandma coming? My heart broke. No, buddy. Grandma is in heaven. But she sent me to take care of you. Okay? He nodded. He didn't understand. Not really. But he trusted me. That was enough. For now. Mrs. Patterson handed me a folder. Custody papers. Emergency orders. Medical records. School forms. You'll need to enroll him in school by next week, she said. And there's a therapist. Court ordered. For both of you. I took the folder. Thank you, I said. She smiled. You're a good man, Mr. Worthington. I didn't feel good. I felt tired. Old. Broken. But I also felt something else. Hope. Dorothy's hope. The hope she had stitched into every seam of that quilt. The hope that had survived the fire. The hope that had brought Noah home. We drove to my house in Fort Worth. The small house. The leaky roof. The groaning water heater. Noah had been here before. For Thanksgiving. For Christmas. For the random Sundays when James and Claire needed a babysitter. He knew the creaky stairs. He knew the smell of my coffee. He knew the sound of the wind through the old windows. He climbed out of the truck. He looked at the house. Then he looked at me. Is this where I live now? He asked. Yes, buddy. This is where you live now. He nodded. He walked to the front door. He waited for me to unlock it. Inside, everything was the same. The worn couch. The wooden table. The refrigerator with his baby photo still pinned to it. Dorothy's photo. He stopped when he saw it. He touched the magnet. Grandma, he whispered. I put my hand on his shoulder. She's still here, Noah. In every room. In every stitch. He turned to me. The quilt? Did you save it? I led him to the kitchen table. The quilt was there. Burned. Charred. Damaged. But whole. Noah touched the blackened edges. His fingers traced the scorched stars. It's ruined, he said. I shook my head. No, buddy. It's not ruined. It's just different. Like us. He looked up at me. His eyes were Dorothy's eyes. Clear. Bright. Unbroken. Can I sleep with it tonight? He asked. I nodded. I think Grandma would like that. That night, I tucked Noah into my bed. The quilt was wrapped around him. The burned side faced the wall. The unburned side covered his heart. I sat in the chair beside him. I watched him fall asleep. And I prayed. To Dorothy. To God. To whoever was listening. Keep him safe. Keep him whole. Help me be the man she believed I could be. The weeks that followed were hard. Noah cried at night. He asked for his mother. Not often. But when he did, it cut like a knife. He asked for his father even less. James didn't call. Didn't write. Didn't try. He was too busy with his lawyers. His criminal case. His crumbling marriage. Claire had moved out of the mansion. Back to her parents. She was filing for divorce. She claimed she knew nothing about the mistress. About the plane tickets. About any of it. The tabloids had a field day. Famous Dallas surgeon arrested for kidnapping plot. Family feud ends in handcuffs. Grandmother's quilt reveals $32 million secret. I didn't read the articles. I didn't care. My world had shrunk to 4 walls and a boy. Noah started school in Fort Worth. A small public school. Nothing fancy. He made friends. Slowly. Carefully. He still carried the stuffed dinosaur. The therapist said it was normal. A comfort object. I didn't care what it was. If it helped him sleep, it was fine with me. Maggie came over every Thursday. Just like she had with Dorothy. She taught Noah how to quilt. He was terrible at it. His stitches were crooked. His fingers were clumsy. But he loved it. He loved sitting at the kitchen table with Maggie. He loved the click of the needles. He loved the feel of the fabric. He's a natural, Maggie told me. She was lying. But I loved her for it. The quilt stayed on Noah's bed. The burned edges softened over time. The fabric faded. But the stars remained. The ones Dorothy had stitched with such care. The ones that had hidden her secret for so long. James's criminal trial began 6 months later. The DA had built a strong case. Elder abuse. Fraud. Conspiracy to commit kidnapping. The mistress testified. She wore a black dress and cried on the stand. The jury didn't believe her tears. Carlos testified. He laid out the evidence. The wiretaps. The bank records. The plane tickets. He was calm. Precise. Unshakable. A Texas Ranger through and through. Rebecca represented me as a witness. Not as a lawyer. She sat in the gallery. She held my hand when I took the stand. I told the jury about the quilt. About Dorothy. About the fire. About my burned hand. I showed them the scars. The pink skin that had grown over the blisters. "Why did you reach into the fire?" the prosecutor asked. I looked at James. He was sitting at the defense table. His suit was expensive. His hair was gray. He looked old. Tired. Broken. "Because my wife asked me to protect our grandson," I said. "And I keep my promises." The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They found James guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 12 years in state prison. No parole for the first 6. Claire didn't come to the sentencing. She was already in the Bahamas. Divorce final. New boyfriend. New life. Noah didn't ask about his father. Not once. He was 9 now. He understood more than I wanted him to. He knew his father had tried to take him away. He knew his father had burned Grandma's quilt. He knew his father was in prison. He didn't cry. He didn't ask why. He just looked at me with those Dorothy eyes and said, "Can we have pizza for dinner?" We had pizza. Every Friday night. It became our tradition. The years passed. Noah grew. He stopped carrying the stuffed dinosaur. He started playing soccer. He joined the school band. He made honor roll. He never forgot Dorothy. He visited her grave every month. He brought flowers. He brought letters. He brought the quilt. The burned one. He would spread it on the grass beside her headstone and sit in silence. I would stand back. Give him space. Let him talk to her. I knew what he was saying. I could see it in his posture. In his hands. He was telling her about his life. His friends. His grades. His hopes. He was thanking her. For the land. For the trust. For the love she had stitched into every seam. When he turned 16, he asked me to drive him to Austin. He wanted to see the land. The 352 acres along the Colorado River. We drove down on a Saturday morning. The sun was bright. The sky was blue. The land was empty. Just grass and trees and the river winding through it. Noah stood at the edge of the property. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then he turned to me. "Grandma bought all of this?" I nodded. Piece by piece. Night shift by night shift. He shook his head. "She was amazing." "She was," I said. "And she saw something in you, Noah. Something worth protecting. He looked at the land again. I'm going to build something here someday. Something that matters. I believed him. He was 17 then. He's 23 now. He just graduated from college. Business degree. He's smart. Kind. Humble. Everything James wasn't. Everything Dorothy prayed he would be. The trust matured when Noah turned 25. He accessed it last year. $32 million. Plus interest. Plus appreciation. The land was worth even more now. Austin had grown. Tech companies had flooded in. The 352 acres were now worth nearly $50 million. Noah didn't sell. He kept the land. He started building. Not a mansion. Not a compound. A community. Affordable housing. A school. A park. He named it Dorothy's Landing. There's a plaque at the entrance. It says, "In memory of Dorothy Worthington. Nurse. Quilter. Grandmother. She stitched hope into every seam." I went to the dedication ceremony last fall. Noah spoke. He held up the quilt. The burned one. The one that had survived the fire. "This quilt saved my life," he told the crowd. "Not because of the money hidden inside. Because of the love. My grandmother loved me before I was born. She loved me after she died. She loved me when my own father couldn't. That love is why I'm standing here today." People clapped. I cried. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I cried for Dorothy. For Noah. For the son I had lost and the grandson I had found. After the ceremony, Noah walked over to me. He put his arm around my shoulders. "Thank you, Grandpa," he said. "For pulling it out of the fire." I hugged him. "I'd do it again," I said. 1,000 times. He laughed. "I know you would." We stood there for a moment. The Texas sun was setting. The sky was orange and pink. The quilt was hanging on the wall behind us. Burned. Scarred. Beautiful. Just like our family. James was released from prison last month. He served 10 of the 12 years. Good behavior. He's 58 now. Old. Gray. Alone. Claire never came back. His mistress married someone else. His colleagues moved on. His patients found new surgeons. He has nothing. No money. No friends. No family. He called me the day after his release. I didn't recognize the number. But I recognized his voice. Dad. Just one word. But it carried 10 years of silence. I didn't say anything. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know that doesn't fix anything. But I'm sorry." I listened. I didn't interrupt. He talked for 20 minutes. About the prison. About the regrets. About the dreams he had of Dorothy. About the way she used to tuck him in at night. About the way she used to sing to him. He cried. I heard it in his voice. The cracking. The trembling. The shame. When he finished, there was a long silence. Then I spoke. "James," I said. "Your mother loved you. Until her last breath. Even after. She never stopped." He sobbed. "I know," he said. "I know. But love doesn't erase consequences," I continued. "You hurt people. You hurt Noah. You hurt me. You hurt Claire. You can't undo that." He was quiet. "I'm not asking you to undo it," he said. "I'm just asking, can I see Noah? Just once?" I took a deep breath. That's not my decision anymore. Noah is a man. He makes his own choices. James thanked me. He hung up. I sat in my kitchen for a long time. The same kitchen where Dorothy had quilted. The same table where we had spread out her secret. I looked at the refrigerator. Noah's baby photo was still there. Next to a new photo. His college graduation. His arm around me. Both of us smiling. I didn't call Noah about James's request. I didn't have to. He would find out eventually. And he would decide. That's what Dorothy wanted. For him to be free. To choose his own path. To build his own life. Noah called me last week. He had heard about James's release from a family friend. "Grandpa," he said. "Dad wants to see me." I waited. I don't know what to do. I told him what I always told him. You don't have to decide today. You don't have to decide tomorrow. You can take as long as you need. He was quiet for a moment. Do you think Grandma would want me to see him? I thought about Dorothy. About her letter. About the last words she wrote to Noah. I want you to grow up in peace. I think Grandma would want you to be at peace, I said. Whatever that means for you. Noah sighed. I'm not at peace. I'm angry. I'm still angry. He burned her quilt. He tried to kidnap me. He went to prison. And now he wants to have coffee like nothing happened? I understood. I felt the same anger. For years. Decades. But time had softened it. Not erased it. Just softened it. You don't have to forgive him, Noah. You don't have to forget. You just have to decide what kind of man you want to be. He was quiet again. Then he said, I want to be like Grandma. My heart swelled. Then you already are. He laughed. A small laugh. But a real one. I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, buddy. He hung up. I don't know what he decided. I haven't asked. It's not my place. But I know one thing for sure. Dorothy's legacy isn't the land. It isn't the money. It isn't the quilt. It's Noah. The boy she saved before he was born. The man he became. The love she stitched into his bones. That's what survived the fire. That's what will survive everything. Burned but unbroken. Just like the quilt. Just like our family. The end.